Hello, and welcome to episode 72 of Wrong End of the Podcast. Jesus.
Wrong End of the Podcast. Oh, we're cooking on gas today.
We are totally cooking on gas today. Wrong End of the Stick Podcast with me, Zach Eaton, and skipper Jonathan Nimmo. Hello.
Hello. I think, but yeah, let's go with it. I mean, you can tell we're out of practice. We haven't done this for a while, so people are going to have to get used to us, getting back into the swing of things. But yeah, we've a lot to talk about. A lot has gone on in cricket over the last few weeks while we've been, off and ill and all the other things that have been happening to us. But yeah, some serious, some less serious, some more light-hearted thing. But we're going to try and cover it all. Basically, we're going to give a rapid wrap-up of everything that's happened in cricket over the last few weeks today.
Yeah.
All prepped and ready so people can get sorted and ready for the Ashes starting on Wednesday. That's it. We're going to, the Ashes is kind of our personal highlight of the cricketing calendar, so we will spend a fair bit of time on that. But we do have a slightly more serious issue to get to first, don't we?
Absolutely. And I think a really relevant issue, and I think, to be honest, we could probably chat about this for hours.
We probably could, and we might yet. This might be the longest podcast episode we've ever done. But obviously this bit that we're going to talk about is the racism in cricket scandal, and in particular focusing around Yorkshire Cricket Club. Now, I think that's going to be one of the points that I'm going to come on to shortly, is because I'm certain that this is not just a Yorkshire issue. This is widespread, but this is kind of looks like it's going to be the catalyst for change. But for anyone who doesn't know what's happened, we're going to give a very, very brief overview of the quite long and twisting tale of what's happened. And this all centres around an ex-cricketer now, Azim Rafiq, who played for Yorkshire Cricket Club for about 10 years, I think, about 2008 to 2018, and has made a lot of allegations. I'm not even sure that we should call them allegations now. They're quite clearly, they're not made up. Let's put it that way. They're absolutely founded in truth, about widespread racism right throughout Yorkshire Cricket Club in particular. So he sort of made these sort of allegations. It was a long time ago now. I think it was sort of back into last year. Wasn't it? It
was September 2020 that he made accusations, and since then, a number of those accusations have been confirmed to be true. And now we're kind of in the midst of, there'll be independent investigations into Yorkshire, but also in cricket as a whole. There's been a lot of movement, as I'm sure people listening are aware.
Yeah, it's come a long way, and I think part of the issue was because there was these allegations made, and as you said, absolutely been proven true. But there was a sort of an internal review by Yorkshire Cricket Club, who sort of said that we're going to, a widespread review and look at the policies and culture. And effectively that came back, and they basically said, oh, it was just banter. This is nothing. We're not going to take any action. This is the end of it. And at that point, that's when things really blew up, because effectively they were basically condoning all those acts of racism, and it hit sort of wider media. I mean, it was one of the very, very few things my wife sent me a link to, like, oh my God, have you heard about this? I was like, well, yes, but it was cricket reaching a wider audience for all the wrong reasons. And they were really just trying to sweep it under the rug, to be honest, which was absolutely awful. So since then, that really did spark a massive reaction. And there's been huge amounts of change at Yorkshire Cricket Club since then. So, I mean, the chairman went, I think 16 coaches and officials and people have either been fired or resigned, or, whatever the wording has been on it, but they've all left the club. There's been a MP's inquiry about it. So Azim Rafiq, and if anybody does want to learn more about what has happened to Azim Rafiq, we're not going to go into all of the details about it today. I would genuinely suggest anyone go and watch his statement that he gave to the MP's inquiry, because it's awful, and he is like really emotional about it, and it's really heart-wrenching to watch, but it shows what an impact it can have.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it's I would definitely recommend doing that. And go and have a look at that, because it's worth watching. It's worth learning more about. It's something everybody should make themselves aware of, I think.
No, definitely. I think what's so sort of compelling for me in the stuff that Rafiq's been going through at the moment and what he's sharing is, I know we covered in the pod a few episodes ago about a cricketer that was dropped from the test squad for comments that they made when they were kind of younger. We had a conversation about, about social media and the age that he was, and what kind of punishment and what kind of, action should be sort of taken. I think for me, the apparent openness of racism from not just within the team, but from senior players and a captain at the time, is a real indication of things not being right from the top down in terms of, racism. And going back to your point, that I can bet my last quid that it isn't going to be just isolated in Yorkshire, and that it's something that as a sport needs to be looked into and changes need to be made. I mean, some of the things that he's been saying in these inquiries and some of the things that he's experienced, I think, are disgusting just on a normal kind of day-to-day level. If an individual was to experience it, let alone when you're playing for, you're supposed to be amongst your peers, amongst people that support you and develop you and people that you should be looking up to. I just think it's, I'm not surprised, and I'm not as surprised as I should be. I think I'm really with you there, and I think that is such a sad thing to say, isn't it? And it's I'm not surprised either. And there's been accusations to people at all different levels throughout Yorkshire, involved in Yorkshire Cricket Club. There's even Michael Vaughan, and I know he disputes this one, but there's comments that he has supposedly made that multiple people have said, backed up this story, that he said something to a group of Asian players, and it's absolutely not on, and it does seem to be that it's that institution that's just so accepted throughout the culture. And it's absolutely not just Yorkshire. There's no doubt that things like this will have happened up and down the country. There's no way that this is just there. My hope is that this, and what Azim Rafiq is going through, because it's clearly really tough, and there's been allegations going around about people trying to keep him quiet while he's been bringing these things up, and again, big media, people in the media and celebrities that you would know, been trying to keep this quiet to protect cricket, and I think that's completely the wrong way of going about it. I think to grow and to recover and to come back from this, you have to almost just burn it all to the ground and own it and be like, yep, you know what, this was there, it was wrong, we know it's wrong, we've learned, we're growing, we're going to take this forward. And I think that's what Yorkshire are now trying to do. With that raft of I don't know how many people work at a cricket club, but there must be about 20 odd that have left Yorkshire. 20 odd, then and they've reinstated.
That's a lot. And Darren Goff's been put in like he's director of cricket now, and is trying to draw a line under that era, and I mean, I would have loved, and I'm not saying that Darren Goff, I mean, I thought he was great as a player, and I think that's fantastic and good for him getting that job. I would have loved to have been somebody of Asian background getting that job and really making a statement of, this is the way we're going to go forward. Yeah, obviously, you've got to find the right person who's qualified for the job and all the rest of it, and all that kind of stuff. But it would have been I feel like that's a missed opportunity by Yorkshire personally. But
I think that's the thing. Maybe it is a missed opportunity, but again, it's at a real, potentially a PR level. And I think this is something that is deeper rooted within kind of what it is. And the fact that it's recent, we're not talking about a county team in, you know, the late 80s coming up to the noughties. We're speaking about people that were still active in cricket and still in leadership positions. Well, still in leadership positions. So this is really kind of relevant, and it's such a mixture of things, and race being embroiled in that, but also bullying and harassment as well. I think it is just a kind of compounded mess. But I think you're right. I think it does need to be that case, that it's not just one of those things where, you know, sweep it under the rug. I think that's completely the wrong attitude. And anybody that approached anybody looking to kind of share their experiences to make it better and say, oh no, you know, it would be a bad decision, I think they should really feel ashamed of themselves based on what he's been kind of sharing. I mean, some of the comments, you know, it's just
the thing for me. It needed to happen, to come out in a really public way, which is what has happened, because I think that is the way that you can grow. Trying to sweep, as you said, trying to sweep it under the rug was terrible. I think my hope is that this does bring big changes to English domestic cricket. I mean, you know, I think it's something that we've talked about for a while. Is you look at sort of the percentage of like local level players in the UK that are playing cricket, and there's a huge percentage of those players are from an Asian background. You look at the England team, there's a handful of players that from an Asian descent that make it. You know, you're talking what in terms of, if you look at the England Ashes squad, what, Moeen Ali? You know, that's probably going to be it from the Test team, I think. You know, and it's not right, and that shows that there's something deeply wrong. And one of the things that I was thinking that this summer in particular has been such positive in terms of the 100 and getting new people into cricket. Maybe this is perfect timing, and maybe there was all that talk around like the old institutions of cricket were under threat from the 100. Actually, if this is what the institutions of cricket have had, maybe a changing of the guard is exactly what's needed. And maybe this is the start of, you know, a fresh new beginning.
Yeah. I think you're right. I wonder how high we'd have to go to root out some of that kind of stuff. And I think changing of the form, I think you're right. I think the 100 has done a great deal for diversity, and I've loved the coverage on both the male and female stuff. And I think it's more attractive to budding young cricketers and to people from different backgrounds. I think the other formats of the game can do that. I think it needs to come from, you know, there's also this kind of vibe. I mean, when we've been to Lords, you know, we've got the kind of that, you know, what we would probably describe in lighter conversations about that quintessential sort of old English cricketer with their bacon and eggs tie and, you know, all very, you know, kind of old school. And I think, I think some feathers do need to kind of be ruffled. But it's about how you address that. And I think you can't try and enforce values. It needs to be something that is just ends up being tacit, and you need to go quite high up. And I think there's some people that we haven't heard from yet that are probably going to keep stum about this. And I would like to see people say, do you know what? Yeah, it is something that we're trying to work on, and hold their hands up and say, you know, maybe it is a cultural thing, and maybe we want to do changes, as opposed to saying, oh no, I've been caught. Oh, is it just Yorkshire? No, of course it's not Yorkshire. And of course it's not just those select individuals that have since kind of resigned. And I think this is the best time ever for cricket, for people in those up there, to start opening their doors and start saying, yeah, do you know what? For the past 30, 40, well, beyond that, yeah, we have been racist. It is part of the culture. We have been old school in all the wrong areas as well as some of the right ones. So we are in solidarity going to try and make some changes and stop that happening, as opposed to just dealing with this isolated incident. And the coverage has been great, and there's been a lot of heavy stuff that's being said and being shared. And I think one of the panel in that inquiry said, you know, you're incredibly brave for saying some of the stuff that he did, because a lot of it was emotional and really, this was just a man that's experienced incredible injustice, and some of the comments, you know.
It is, because it's, and I think he said at one point that it was, he like dreaded every day going in. And I was like, you know, that's a horrible position to have been put in, to have the talent to get to where he got, but for no reason other than, you know, the colour of his skin, to be subjected to that and to be made to be miserable going in is horrendous.
Yeah.
You know, no one deserves that. That's awful.
Yeah.
Awful. So, yeah, it's it'll be interesting to see what comes of here. There'll be more to come, I'm sure, and you know, we'll see what happens next. But I think you're right in terms of a lot of the institutions are, you know, there's a lot that's built on tradition.
Yep.
Tradition isn't an excuse for racism.
No.
And that has to, you have to separate the two. And you can keep your traditions that, you know, that aren't racist and that are okay, but you had the rest of it has to drop away and has to change and has to adapt. And it's, yeah, I'm hopeful that it will change. I'm ever the optimist, but I am hopeful that this overall will be a positive thing.
I think he should be so incredibly proud of himself, because it does take some really horrible times and horrible decisions for him to make, to go public and to, you know, be a part of that scrutiny, and for people to feel uncomfortable for change to happen. And you know, I don't think it is kind of blind optimism. I think because of his actions, I think this will drive change. And that can only be a positive thing for cricket if we are being more inclusive and we are making sure that all the way from, you know, the ECB to our village, you know, kind of communities, that people feel that from any race or background, if you love the sport, you should have a place amongst your peers and amongst your team and amongst, you know, new people, new potentially new friends and teammates to feel welcome and know that, you know, it doesn't matter where you come from or the colour of your skin, that you're respected as a player, just like in any sport, professional, amateur, in anything, in any that anybody does in any kind of decision to walk of life. So, yeah.
And it's you know, it shouldn't be forgotten. He's a 30-year-old guy. He's you know, he's a guy that just loves his cricket and wanted to be a part of that, and clearly had the talent to be there as well. And you know, to be, you know, the subject of horrible, horrific treatment because of that is just, you know, there's no place for it at all. And you know, he's been through a lot, and he is an incredibly strong man. I think he should be incredibly proud of what he's done. And you know, I'd like, again, for those numbers, this won't make much sense, but in the Sports Personality of the Year stuff, I would really hope there's some special award to him, because he has made a massive difference, and we're only just starting to see the start of that change. And you know, I mean, I haven't looked on Twitter around all of this stuff, because I some things, you know, Twitter is great for some things, but other things it brings out the worst in people, and I don't want to look there, because I'm certain he is still being subject to all kinds of abuse there. But he should be incredibly proud. He's bringing real positive change to cricket, and I think that's something that he really should be very, very proud of. And I think, yeah, my hope is that this is a low point, and we're kind of reaching that low point, and that it will build back better, braver, stronger. And that was a very political phrase. I don't know where that came from. Apologies. but you know, that I hope that this is the start where we will come back stronger together with it. And you know, yeah, I think there's a lot of education to go on for a lot of people, but my hope is that the right people are willing to embrace that.
Yeah, you're spot on there. And I think it is about education. I think they're doing a good job of some of the PR and adverts and stuff that they're doing about Unity and stuff. But I think you're right. I think it comes from understanding and education to build that, more unified, inclusive kind of environment. But
And I would recommend everyone to go out and pick up a copy of Michael Holding has a book who has written I can't remember what it's called now. I will look it up in a second. But he's written a book and he has interviewed people like Usain Bolt and all kinds of other black athletes about the racism that they faced. And obviously Michael Holding is a cricketing, legend. But he has, and it's a really fascinating book. I'm partway through reading that at the moment, and it is really interesting. Just his take on racism, and he's speaking to sort of world superstars, Thierry Henry, and all kinds of other people, and I think that's absolutely phenomenal. So it's called Why We Kneel and How We Rise, and it's all about that whole, taking the knee and that kind of thing. And it's, if anyone wants to go and learn more about this issue, do go and pick that up because it is an extremely good read. So there you are.
Beautiful.
Have we solved world cricket now? I think
we've made a dent.
Small dent. Yeah, that's all we can ask for. I think that's good. Shall we move on to pastures new and, our favourite topic, which is the Ashes, isn't it?
Absolutely.
Oh, the Ashes. Well, the Ashes are here. We're on the eve of the Ashes. By the time this comes out, it will probably be, a day away. So the Ashes test, 5 tests, England and Australia, in Australia, starts this Wednesday. So what can we say? We went through the England team a few weeks back, didn't we? Or what the likely England team would be, and gave them all. Did we give them grades or numbers? I can't remember what we gave. I think we gave them marks out of 10, did we?
I think it was something like out of 10, yeah. Yeah.
But there is one player that is now available that wasn't when we were talking back then, and I believe we mentioned him because we like to, and that's Sir Benjamin Stokes. He is back. He has returned from his cricketing hiatus. He's back. Yep. He's down under at the moment. He's playing well from what I can gather in the sort of warm-up games. And, he's going to go straight into that team with the first name on the team sheet. So that's going to be... It adds an extra layer of intrigue, I think, to the matches.
I think it gives a lot of hope. I hope he's been out. And my worry is that, I hope he's fit. I hope he kind of, still got that form, still got that aggression. But I think it doesn't just add another layer to the team and to the side. It adds a 3-dimensional kind of element of hope in so many ways. I think just what he brings to the team with bat, ball out in the field. And I think the Australians, they're probably kind of, slapping their knees and think, oh, I've got him as well coming down. So, it's really good to hear, really good to see. I'm glad that he managed to overcome, what he was going through to get back. It's so timely. He's like a white rider over the hill.
Yeah. I mean, I do feel like he should have come in when England were 2-0 down from the first 2 tests, and then he comes in for the third, and then we win a sweeping 3-2 victory. And that's the film. That's the film that I would be making. However, I'm so glad he's in from the first test because, he absolutely he is the Gandalf White Knight coming in. I mean, I'll be honest, that doesn't still make me totally confident, but I'm so glad he's back, and I think that. And I'm really glad it's still there, but that desire, that burn, that itch to want to do the best you can, I don't think he could bear to sit at home and not be there and not give everything to be part of it. So, I'm so glad he's in. I think it's going to be fantastic. And if nothing else, it's going to make the Australians a little bit worried. Yeah. They're going to be a bit scared because if you've got Ben Stokes in your team, he is a game winner. No matter how the rest of the team plays, he can win you matches pretty much single-handedly. And that will worry them, which is exactly as it should be. So I think that's a fantastic addition. Shall we have a quick chat about the Australia team, though? As we promised to do this ages ago, and we never quite got round to doing it, but shall we have a look at what their team looks like? So obviously they have not been without their own scandals at the moment. So they've had another Australian cricket captain has resigned in tears at a press conference, which is becoming habit for Australian cricket captains now. But Tim Paine has gone. So he has not only resigned, he is not going to be taking part in the rest of the series either. He has taken Ben Stokes like indefinite leave from cricket due to mental health problems. Now,
I did not know that.
It's his mental health problems, not the person who he allegedly sexted and sent unsolicited lewd messages to, which is basically what brought around his resignation. So yeah, he has, I presume, come under fire from the Australian media, who can be pretty relentless with these kind of things, or certainly the British media would be as well. So yeah, he's taken a break from cricket, so he is not going to be in the team at all. So that has left a gap. But let's go through and we'll just go through what their likely first 11 is going to be. I don't know exactly what it'll be, but their likely first 11, and let's give them similar scores and rankings and ratings and stuff, shall we? What are we doing? Are we doing marks out of 5, marks out of 10, or?
I think it was marks out of 10 that we did for England.
Okay, let's do marks out of 10 again then. So we opened with, David Warner. He's back. He's in. Now, last time he was playing in the Ashes was in England when Stuart Broad got him out, I think pretty much every single time for barely any runs ever, and he totally just seemed to have his number. But we've also seen David Warner in his most destructive, where he can absolutely destroy you, and you can be 100 for no wickets very, very quickly.
Yeah.
So I don't know which David Warner's going to turn up. And that's possibly the biggest, one of the biggest question marks about this for Australia team, because, which one are we going to get?
I think, that if he goes out to the centre like he has done in some of his T20 performances, and we can't bowl him out, then we're in a bit of trouble. He has potential to really hurt us, but I think, based on the discussion that we had around the England squad, and I think some of the other elements in the Australian team, and I don't know. I feel that it could be a bit of a wild card. I think it could be a few kind of inconsistent sort of performances where, he might absolutely dominate and get a start. I think the thing with Warner is you don't want him to get a start.
That's it. And I think the first innings of the first game could be really interesting, because if Stuart Broad comes in and gets him out early,
it's going to knock him, hopefully.
How much is that doubt going to be in his head, and how much is that going to undermine his confidence? And that could. So I think the first innings of the first test is going to be really interesting.
I mean, based on the last Ashes, then I don't know. It's like a really tentative 6, and I give him a 6, not a 5, because we know how much of a good batsman he is and can be. And I also think that number, if we don't get it right on our end when we're bowling, that number could potentially jump up as the matches go on. So that's where I'd kind of put it, I think.
I think that's probably about right. I'm trying to think of it as, would I want him on the England team over sort of Percival Mead and Rory Burns, who are likely to be out? Probably for potential, but also it wouldn't be a comfortable decision.
No, I wouldn't like to answer as part of
because he definitely has the possibility of being far better than both of those, but also he has the possibility of going out very cheaply. So tricky one. His opening partner is going to be Marcus Harris, who's only had 10 tests. I don't think we've seen much of him before. His average is 23, which is not world beating. There was likely to be a debutant, a young kid called Pekowski, but he got hit on the head, so he's going to miss certainly the first 2 tests. But if Harris doesn't perform, you'd imagine he's going to be penciled in for the third, but don't know much of what to expect from Harris, to be honest.
Mm.
I don't know, 4 for me. Just So he could come in and be brilliant, but I've not seen enough of him to have much confidence in him, to be honest. So, of course, it then gets slightly terrifying because you then have Steve Smith and Marnus Labuschagne.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I struggled not to give either of those 10s, to be honest. They're both terrifying players. They're both incredibly stubborn batsmen who are very, very difficult to get out and can score you a lot of runs. And, you know, if those two both have good series, then Australia will win 5-0.
They are kind of pivotal players. Mm. And they are players that make or break a game. And
the question is, because Australia's batting isn't great outside of them, but those two are two of the best batsmen in the world. So do you need great batting outside of them? Is the question. You just need half a performance here and there to support them. My hope is that they're not in form. I don't know if that's true, but my hope is that they're not going to be. But yeah, I struggle to give them anything other than 9s or 10s. Personally.
Yeah, and Archer's in, or is he still injured?
No, he's still injured. I think he's missing. Yeah, he's missing.
He's missing it. This is
really unfortunate.
This is where, unless we've taken a lot of notes from the last time round, and we've got some approaches from the other bowlers that they think could kind of work. I think Stokes kind of has that same threat with some of the bouncers that might rattle them a little bit. But yeah, I think they can. It's not going to be swinging down under that much, and I just hope we can. There needs to be some kind of tactic. I hope that they've got something at least worked out that will either get them second guessing or at least kind of restrict them as much as possible. Because if not, then that might well be already before we've started a nail in the coffin. So I'm hoping we've got some kind of plan for that. But I agree.
Let's hope so. I think the fifth batsman is going to be Travis Head. It was sort of a debate between Khawaja and Travis Head. I think Travis Head is going to get in there ahead of him. Hey. But you know, I mean, he's average just under 40, so he's certainly not a bad player by any means at all. But I think if he was the player you were most worried about in the batting lineup, you're going to do okay. He certainly has potential to get some big scores, and he's been in good domestic form. But you know, we'll see what happens with him. But he's not a player that worries me like the other two do. So I don't know, 7 for him.
Yeah.
And then Alex Carey, who's going to be the wicketkeeper, it's his debut as well. So he's stepping into Tim Payne's shoes.
Isn't he? He's going to be captain as well, isn't he?
No, he's not. I think he's captain for his county team.
Right, okay.
No, their captain is one of the bowlers, which is an interesting one, but we'll come to that in a sec.
Okay.
So yeah, Alex Carey again, playing very much one-day player, so could be destructive in places, but unlikely to stick around for very long. But if Labuschagne and Smith have done the work for you, him coming in is not a pretty sight. So yeah, it'll be an interesting one to see what he does. Again, give him a 6 probably for me, maybe a 5. 5, yeah, I'd rather have Warner than him. Let's give him a 5. And then again, for me, this is where it starts to get scary when you get into the Australian bowling lineup. So we'll start off with the newly appointed captain, Pat Cummins. So yeah, he's good. I mean, good player. I'm not a massive fan of having bowler as captain because I think they just bowl themselves all the time, and if it's nice and easy, they'll bring themselves on to get a few wickets and stuff. You know, maybe that's just the way I would bowl, but you know,
especially a pace bowler like Cummins,
exactly,
you'd expect that.
So yeah, but we've got Cummins, Hazelwood, and Stark as the 3 pace bowlers, which is terrifying to be honest with you.
Yeah.
They've got pure pace in Stark, they've got accuracy, they've got consistency. It's everything you don't want to see coming at you from the other side, particularly on quick bouncy pitches. But and then Nathan Lyon to back him up as a spinner as well.
God, he's naughty as well. He's
good.
He's a good talker, good spinner. Fielding
in key. I'm just thinking back to the World Cup where he managed to not stamp out whoever it was
Yeah.
that was running down the other end. But yeah, so yeah, we'll see. I mean, there's not very many weaknesses there in their bowling lineup at all.
No.
And given that England's biggest weakness is their batting fragility, I mean, it could fall apart very quickly. But England will be up for it. England will be as motivated as they are for anything. But whether that's going to be enough, I mean, if you look at that, having gone through that team, how many England players would make it into that team? I mean, I think Joe Root would would definitely get in ahead of Travis Head.
Yeah.
I mean, imagine Labuschagne, Smith, and Root as your three middle batsmen. That's terrifying. But Ben Stokes would probably be in somewhere there.
Yeah.
I don't know. How many other England players make it in?
Yeah,
Josh
not
Butler,
many.
maybe at keeper, maybe.
Maybe Broad, they'd entertain Broad, but again, it's not swinging down there, so...
Yeah, not headed. I struggle to see where many England players would make it into that team. I think Root and Stokes would probably be it. And at that point, on an individual basis, you're saying that probably 9 of the Australian team are better than the England team, so it's quite a scary prospect for an England.
I think it's just we're talking about fragility of batting. That's has been the case, I think, for a big portion of our podcast, and I think it's one element definitely. I also think it's just that they've just got the right combination, don't they? They've got a very secure. If you look at the bowlers, for instance, Pat Cummins, that's horrible. And then you've got
that's the thing. There's no let up. There's no, let's just see off Stark because he's the main threat, and we can then get runs from the others.
Yeah.
There's no let up in their attack at all. There's no let up whatsoever.
Yeah.
And that's the problem, that you can't just see one bowler off because you quite fancy taking on another one. They're all monsters. They're all real, terrifying prospects to face.
We've got some quite young members of the team as well in the England squad, and that's another thing that worries me, because if they've not been exposed enough, and they probably have in other formats of the game and stuff like that, but the immense pressure of the Ashes down in Australia for some of these batsmen, I think it really does highlight, like you say, the fragility of the batting, and it will take some key players like Stokes, like Root, who ran the gauntlet to kind of try and hold it down. Whereas if you look at the Australian team, they've already got those players that could make or break a game, but the rest of their team look solid. They look dangerous all across it. So,
I mean, the thing is, you're right. England do have a young team, and I think this is probably the majority of those Australia players are in their peak. And the England team are on the ride because they've got a lot of youngsters that are starting to come into the team. The older guard are pretty much moving on. And I just think this Australia team, they're basing an Australia team that's, right up there. Most of those players, in 4 years' time, when England go back down to Australia, the majority of this team won't be there playing for Australia. I think, Mitchell Stark's 31. He's, for a fast bowler, that's getting on a bit. You're looking at, on the batting side, Steve Smith's 32. Yeah, he could be around, but in 4 years' time, is he going to be around? Probably not. They've got some younger players, but the core of that team is older. And I don't know, it feels to me that if England go and win this series, it would be one of the greatest ever upsets in Ashes history.
Absolutely immense. A battle-hardened Australian team full of, arguably, sometimes not even arguably, some of the best players in their fields in the world against a kind of, and I don't want to say lackluster. I feel like we've got a lot of energy. We've got a lot of potential, but we are definitely the underdogs, I feel, going into this.
Definitely. I mean, if I had to put my house on a particular outcome, it's going to be a big Australia win. So I just, it's huge underdogs. But strange things happen in cricket sometimes, and
you know it. That's it.
Games may be closer than we expect. You can never tell. My concern is England have had very little practice. In fact, I think they had like a day of batting, and that was about it, because their warm up match was with their B team. It was the England Lions, and it got washed out. So I just don't think there's been time to practice at all. So that really concerns me. I'm not confident at all. Which is sort of bringing us through to prediction time, I think. I will, while I'm letting you have a ponder of what you think the score is going to be, I will say that the 5th test is being confirmed. It's been moved from Perth now. It's definitely not going to happen in Perth. They're either going to move it to Melbourne or Hobart. Hobart never hosted an Ashes game, I believe. Or it's going to go back to Melbourne. They're going to have 2 in Melbourne, which will be interesting. But yeah, due to COVID restrictions and stuff, it can't happen there. So yeah, it's going to be elsewhere, which will be an interesting one. So again, I don't know
I'm guessing they're restricting the amount of people that can go to these games as well, which might lend a small advantage.
I'm not sure, to be honest. I'm not sure. I believe, certainly in the build-up to it, because there's 5 Australian states where the games were going to be played. They're all 5 different states. They all had different restrictions. So trying to keep up with that was a nightmare, and I gave up on trying to figure out what on earth was happening. I'll figure it out when it gets there, and so it's a tough one, and I think it's going to be tough for the England players as well. You're not only travelling, you've got a lot of these COVID restrictions, and Australia's been really tight on those restrictions and stuff, and totally get that, but it's tough for a team that's touring to get the best prep and the best rest and recovery and all the rest of it in between games there. So, well, I put it off long enough. My pen is poised. What is your overall Ashes prediction?
My ever blazing optimism is in complete conflict with my kind of practical,
everything you see around you.
Yeah, with my practical and evidence-based opinion. So I'm going to go right down the middle, and I'm going to say it's going to be 2-2 and a draw, and they're going to retain it. Yeah,
that would be huge, wouldn't it?
I would love that. I would love that. That's a win for me.
That absolutely, for England, if England got anywhere near that would be a massive win.
Yeah.
Massive win. Now I have 2 scores in my head, and I'm not sure which one I'm going to go for overall. I'm working on the presumption that all 5 games get finished because, well, I just presume it's Australia and it never rains in Australia, which I know is totally not true, but that's what I'm working on the basis of. Before Ben Stokes came back, I had 5-0 firmly fixed in my mind.
What?
Now Ben Stokes is back, I wonder whether England might nick one, or at least might nick a draw. Maybe I'm going 4-0. Maybe that's the score I should plump with. I was going between 5-0 or 4-1, and I think I am probably going to go for I'm going 5-0. I think 5-0 is the most likely result. I genuinely think.
I am blown away. I'm absolutely blown away that you would say that on this podcast. 5-0.
I'm always a pessimist on these predictions, you know this, but I genuinely can't see. Look, as we said, England have 2 players that would get anywhere near that Australia team. 2 players. We're missing our most dangerous bowler.
Has there ever been an Ashes series where it's been 5-0? When was the last time that happened?
There's been plenty. I'm gonna research that as we speak, but there's been plenty of 5-0s in the past. You didn't start watching cricket, until beyond the 90s. There were plenty of the 90s, believe me.
Well, I think fair. I think logically, I don't think it's a bad prediction. I think it's pretty darn tooting a bit high in terms of Australia's favour, but I don't think anyone would bat an eyelid. If
We had in 2013 we had a 5-0.
to us or to them?
Not to them. These are all to Australia.
Okay.
In 2006 there was a 5-0.
Okay.
Those are the most recent ones. There's been a good few 4-1s. There's a 3-0 and a 4-0, but obviously things got washed out there. Okay, yeah, there haven't been too many since before that. Again, a good few 4-0s, but again, obviously with things being rained off, so you don't always get. Yeah, actually, to be fair, going back beyond that, it's quite a long time before that 2006 one. That clearly scarred me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Got Ashes PTSD.
Yeah, I really do. And obviously there was the 4-0 the last time England were in Australia. So, I mean, maybe that's what I should have gone for. Maybe I should have gone for a 4-0. But yeah, it's tough. It's tough to win in Australia, you know?
Yeah, that is true. That is true. That's why I'm hoping, even if they retain the Ashes, but it's just purely they retain them, then that to me morally is a win for that team, and that'd be such a boost to everyone involved, new players, young players.
That would be massive. Yeah, absolutely massive. Well, there we are. Our scores are in the books. So, first test starts on Wednesday at midnight in the UK time. I don't know what time that is in Australia, probably 11 a.m. or something. But yeah, first test in Brisbane. So be there. Stay up there. Midnight. I mean, you've got to basically become nocturnal to watch these things.
Yeah.
It's absolutely brutal. But I tell you what, if it starts going England's way and it's not the most painful thing to watch, I'm absolutely going to have a few nights where I am up in the middle of the night, and you're going to see me coming to work not looking very happy the next morning. I'm half asleep and have spent 8 hours watching Australia just demolish us. But yeah, it's going to be good. It's going to be fun. It's going to be interesting. Let us know what you're doing to keep yourself awake through the night to watch the Ashes. We need your tips. Presumably lots of tea and coffee, I imagine, is the way forward. But yeah, let us know if you've got any other tips and tricks. There is 2 very, very other brief things I think we should probably mention, just in other bits of news, and then I've got a real life.
Yes.
I've got a real life Umpire Strikes Back for you.
I'm looking forward to this.
Which came about when I was actually watching some cricket the other day. So, just 2 other very quick bits of news. One, the 100 have announced that they are doubling all women's salaries for next season's 100, which still brings them absolutely nowhere near the men's salaries, but they're double the women's salaries, which is a massive step in the right direction, and long may that continue to happen. That's absolutely very much needed. So yeah, good, big up to the 100 there. And then finally, something that we would have devoted a lot more time to if we normally had the time for it, but this has been a very particular packed episode. But Ayaz Patel of New Zealand spinner, New Zealand currently touring India. He took 10 wickets in an innings. He becomes only the 3rd man ever to do that. He took all 10. That scorecard is hilarious to read because it's just all him in a row. I mean, India still got 325. And then went to bowl New Zealand out for 62. So, I mean, it was in a losing effort, God bless him, but my word, and then, the interesting, he was not out as well at the end of that he got not out. He was like, he's doing it all. I mean, he got not out, but still, that's not the point.
Wow.
Yeah, just absolutely phenomenal. And then in the next innings, he took 4. So he took 14 over the course of a match, but absolute, doing wonders there. So I know spinners do well in
India, yeah.
But my word, he got two not outs for naught as well. So he was unbeaten with the bat and took 14 wickets.
Is it 10 for how many? How many runs did he give away?
How many runs did he give away? Let me check that for you. 119.
Okay.
That's not bad.
That's like 10.
10 for 119 is just crazy.
Yeah.
Crazy. So, yeah, I mean, what a player. So I know he was in a losing effort, but my word, what an effort by him. That was phenomenal.
It's a knighthood down there, isn't it? For that, must be.
You'd think, wouldn't you? You would. But yeah, it looks like they've got a bit of a star for the future with him, anyway. So, well, maybe not even for the future. He's 33. He's not that young. But there we go. Spinners can play forever, can't they? There's no.
Yeah, they're all right.
It's fine. So yeah, so there were the two bits of other bits of news. Right, shall we get to very finally before we wrap up, because it's been a long old podcast, this one. Shall we get to the real life Umpire Strikes Back? So this happened in a game it was like a European tournament. It was like European cricket series or something that I was watching. And the bowler comes in and bowls. You're at the crease, and the batsman goes for a strange, like, little dill scoop type shot over his left shoulder. So he's kind of flicked it over his shoulder. The ball has come off the bat, hit the wicketkeeper's helmet.
Yep.
As he's wearing it. Obviously, he's not just so hitting the guy on the helmet. The wicketkeeper's a bit dazed, looks around. The ball is looped up in the air and is caught by a different fielder. What do you give?
I think he's out, isn't he? So the ball gets delivered. He's gone for a ramp shot or a little flick. It's cracked the wicket. Ball's gone up. Someone else has caught it.
Yep.
If the ball's kind of live and in the air, the wicket misses a scoop, hits his helmet, it goes up, and the wicket catches it, I still think that's out. But I think because the equipment's being worn, just as though, because if you were on silly point, it could come off your box. But if you catch it, you catch it. Even if someone was right next to you as well. So I don't think the same rule could be applied to the helmet if he's wearing it. So I'm going to go without, I think.
You are correct. Good decision. Good decision. Now, according to the commentators, I didn't know if this was true or not, but according to the commentators, previously, as in up until last year, coming off the wicket, his helmet while he was wearing it didn't count because it didn't count as a piece of equipment for some reason. I don't quite understand what it counted as.
Right.
But now, as of this year, this is what the commentators told me anyway, that now counts as it's just another piece of equipment that he's wearing, like your shin pads or like anything else, and therefore it does count, and it was given out. But yeah, there you are. Good stuff. I don't have my soundboard with me, but a definite ding to you, and yeah, good work.
Nice.
Well, there we
I'll take
are.
that.
Finishing on a positive note, and there we go. Thank you. If you've stuck with us through all of that, thank you for listening, everybody.
Yeah, and going on that roller coaster with us as well.
That was a roller coaster. That was yeah. We've been all around the houses today. But if you have enjoyed that, then please give us a nice, lovely 5-star rating on wherever you listen to your podcasts. If you would like to get in touch with us, tell us how you are going to stay awake through all of the Ashes games, or tell us if you're just going to sleep through them. That's fine too. Then do get in touch with us. We are on Twitter at WrongEndPodcast. We're also on Instagram at WrongEndPodcast, or you can email us wrongendofthestick@hotmail.com. Thank you so much for listening, and we will see you soon. We are definitely going to try and record more often throughout the Ashes. We'll try and do a little review after each Ashes match and come back and keep you informed and let us know how terribly our predictions are going, or hopefully how well your prediction is going and how utterly dreadfully my prediction is going. That's the ultimate hope, isn't it?
That is the hope.
Well, thanks for listening, and we will catch you next time.
Cheers, everyone. Bye.